Good morning, my friends. Today's the day. It's happening.
Good morning. It
It's
is. It is today. If it's not today, it's going to be another.
it's the pilot. It's the pilot. And just like the pilot of Boeing 747, this is probably gonna crash and burn. But
Wow.
They worked out some kinks. We might take flight today. Who knows? We'll see. We got
yeah.
some good ideas. I believe. I believe in us.
Well, I don't know if they're good. We got ideas. We got plenty of ideas.
We got
More
ideas.
importantly, we got a couple pieces of bread and we've stuck them in the toaster.
Two
Yeah,
of them,
that's true.
to be exact.
Every single morning, except for only 3 mornings a week for you guys, but every single morning for me, 2 pieces of toast, not shit on them. Maybe hummus, because sometimes I get that bread and it just does not taste good.
Happening.
What?
Sorry, I'm playing Genshin, bro. I'm my
Man,
bad.
this guy. Think about being like a co-host on a show. By the way, I'm the host, Logan Eisenhower. These are my co-hosts today. Feel free to introduce yourselves. Greg's
Co-host every day.
Good morning. My name is Griffin. That is my real name.
Griffin, Griffdog.
Yes. That is surprising to most people.
And the other guy that is playing video games and never graduated kindergarten. Do you guys have kindergarten in Canada?
We do.
We do.
It's actually called junior. There's junior kindergarten and then there's senior
Oh,
kindergarten.
what? So
Yeah.
how does that work? Is that like the predecessor to grade 1 for you guys?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So junior kindergarten is basically like daycare. They will
Oh,
teach you how to like draw a circle using a stencil.
we have that in America. It's called Head Start here, though. Like, so
Okay.
there's Head Start and then there's kindergarten. So kindergarten is like, or there's pre-K, aka Head Start. It's so weird how the junior and senior, but it's the same fucking ideology. I wonder who invented that. They're
That
geniuses.
is a oh, sorry. My dog's going off.
That's fine. Bo's
Tell
cool.
them to go on.
That'd be a good question. I actually never went to JK or SK, surprisingly. I went to a different type of lower or higher education for younger people in Chatham here that was called Montessori, a place to grow.
Oh
Montessori.
yeah. They have Montessori's over where you are, eh, Logan?
I'm not sure, honestly, dude.
I know Kanye talks about it in one of his songs, so they have to. That's the
Probably.
only reason I'm saying
I'll
that.
just level with you. I grew up extremely poor, so I grew up government everything, like government housing, government food. Like we went to the park and ate like lunches and shit, like free from the school. And the second
Hell
I
yeah.
turned like 3 or 4, my parents were like, "Fuck yeah, let's put him in Head Start. Let's get rid of this little fucker for a little bit." And
Yeah.
I think I learned a lot of social skills in Head Start. There were some kids who ate crayons and drank glue.
And you were like just one of them who like
And
tried it.
that directly led to me being addicted to heroin.
Oh. Because he ate the paint chips.
No.
That's
Maybe though. That's crazy.
so this school was based off of a principle of basically when I was there, I stayed there until grade 1. I learned how to sew, how to zip buttons,
Really?
how to polish brass instruments,
What the
literally
fuck?
using brass. So twice a day, we would basically, our nap time, we would go up to this big room and like have a nap time, but they would read us a section of like an intellectual story. I can't remember any of them. But this school was very strange in that our free time or recess was going into a big room that had many different puzzles and mind games. For example, the game with fitting the shapes into the pegs.
Yeah.
There was a version of that that had 100 spaces in it and a bunch of tiny little shapes. So you would basically go up to the shelf, bend with your knees, take it out of the shelf, and then go sit straight back at a table. And like if you had a hunched back, or if you bent over without using your knees, or you did any of these things, a teacher would come up and let you know not to do that.
Slap you in
Oh,
the
okay.
face.
So up until that point, that sounded like honestly, a very productive thing. Like it sounded like it was great for children, and then you started bringing in the fucking Catholic ruler beating shit.
So
And
it's not exactly ruler beating. I have many memories of sitting in the corner,
He said it
actually, just
wasn't a
because of
ruler.
my posture. But more in particular, the reason why I was sent there in the first place. But um, they apparently have a better way of teaching linguistics and written word, all that fun stuff on paper. They apparently had a better system to teach that. I don't know about that because staying there for JKSK, I only learned how to write in cursive letters, and I
what the
didn't.
fuck?
I know a
Yeah,
lot of
so
kids that were like that.
they only taught us in cursive, and then in grade one, that's when they started basically teaching you written, opposed to cursive letters. So when I left in grade one, I had no clue what these other letters at the other school were, and
What it
on
would
top of that, I'm dyslexic.
I was gonna say, what if that directly like worsened your dyslexia just by
And
Right?
having to learn a whole separate version of lexicon, like right out of the gate after you spent the first couple years of your like under like conscious life being able to learning a certain form of lexicon, and then you go to a new school and they're like, "Are you fucking stupid? Like
They brought
what?"
everyone to
yes,
pencil.
and that was brought up by my family too. My grandfather in particular used to say, "Oh, Montessori really messed you up. I really regret that they sent you there," and would go on about it. But I looked it up later in life, and usually kids that are taught multiple versions of a lexicon, that's a really great word, by the way,
Dang.
um,
Wow.
they usually excel because just the mind of a child is so easily, like it's like a sponge, it'll just
Yeah.
absorb so much knowledge.
That's why we're teaching, like right now, we've been teaching artisan words in Spanish, French, and Japanese, not just English. Like, so if we say banana, we'll be like banana, manzanas, and we'll go forward from there. Kiana knows all the Spanish, French shit. Only I know, like, I would say I know enough conversational Spanish to where if you drop me off, like, I could tell you I have to take a shit, or I could tell you, like, my dick's hard, or I'm starving, like things that a
Those
man
are pretty
needs.
much the only
Yeah.
important.
But when it comes to Japanese, I'm way more conversational now than I ever got in Spanish or French or Latin or anything I tried to learn. I've gotten to a point now in Japanese where I can sit down with Arson and I'm really trying to teach him, like, I want him to be. It's really important to me that he understands other cultures of the world, because a lot of Americans unfortunately are ignorant to anything else existing outside of this place. That's like a real problem. I know you guys in Canada probably have noticed that about America. Like Americans typically, and I'm not going to say typically, but a good portion of Americans, especially in the southern states, they really just don't see outside of their little hut, their little pasture, their little mountain, whatever. It's when something foreign comes in, it's like the spectacle of the fucking town. Like whenever I started wearing these Hanafuda earrings, every single person would stop me and be like, "Is that Japanese flag you got on your ears?" I'd be
That's
like, "No, Japan's."
Demon Slayer.
Yeah, it's like it's some nerd shit. Don't get me wrong, but Japan's flag looks nothing fucking like this. And in fact, you don't know, like Japan has one of the most simple flags in the world. I feel like you put it on a piece of paper, every person would recognize it that's ever seen anything about another country. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so fucking
Yeah,
obvious. Like you know what Japan's flag looks like if you have any sort of like knowledge of the outside world outside of America or your country.
and that's an interesting idea because I feel like there was a shift to a point generationally where you went from keeping your head down and focusing on your own life to not even worrying about what's going on in the world, or really just, like you said, kind of zeroing in your scope. And in the United States in particular, um, a lot of the new not news, but I want to say propaganda, but a lot of the information that was given to the public that was well received was patriotic, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys are.
We're a relatively new country though as well. That's
So
why like
compared to Canada, I was just going to bring this up in particular. It's not so much an idea that we would say that you guys only care about yourselves or think about yourselves so much, but the scope of patriotism from Canada to the United States is vast. Like it kind of baffles me. I don't know about you, Finn. Like, would you say so? Would you say like there's people in Canada here that are diehard like statesmen. Like it doesn't,
Like,
you know
you
what I
mean like
mean?
the rednecks who are like, we love Canada, like we fight for our country. Like, is that what you mean?
Well, I'm saying we have about 4 of those where you guys would have 10 in the same select group. You
I
know what
would
I'm saying?
say definitely 20, 30 years ago, yeah, but America's I don't know what kind of media you guys get portrayed from us, but there's like a huge divide in this nation right now. Like a lot of
So,
people genuinely don't want to be a part of this country, and a lot of people like want this country to only be for certain people. Like it just feels like there's a certain sect of our country is like, from where I was saying, our country's relatively new. It's a very young
mhm,
country, so you got to think, not even, I mean, just 200-300 years ago, half of this land wasn't even settled yet. We were only on one coast. We still hadn't committed mass genocide of fucking, fucking millions of people. I don't even know how many. I've got to look up that statistic. I don't want to misspeak, but we literally, raped, pillaged, and plundered our way to owning this country. And then from there, not only was there civil war all throughout our nation, that never subsided. There are still motherfuckers that are angry about that. Like I can go outside my house right now where I live, and there's people waving Confederate flags, and like it's just insane to me, and crazy shit like that. Like that's one of those
Yeah.
things I'll
People have Confederate flags here too. It's crazy.
and that's even fucking creepier to me that people in Canada have them. Because what the fuck
yes.
did Canada
So
have to do with that?
that's what I was getting to. A lot of what any like so we have a few patriots, but we have a few American patriots. People that have not necessarily been born here but follow all American politics, basically just follow America from afar and romanticize it.
Yeah,
I'm sure that happens all around the world,
yeah, I do
but
it with Japan. I'm not even going front.
and it's natural. It's yeah, it's good that way, but what you were saying 20, 30 years ago it might have been like that, but those 20, 30 years ago, those people got into the habit of kind of only really thinking about America, and then those people had kids. So it's not exactly like those kids don't have or are the same way. They literally were never taught the knowledge about another country. Like it was never opened up to them
Yeah,
because their teachers, their parents, everybody who was kind of mentoring them was like, for instance, if you had gone up to your teacher in grade 3 and said, "What's that Japan flag look like?" Do you think they would have pulled out a textbook and like showed it to you and talked about how Japan was founded or anything like that?
where I live in third grade, absolutely not, dude. I lived in an extremely racist town where they called me fucking racial slurs all the time, even though I'm literally just white and Native American. I'm not, but I got called Middle Eastern slurs the majority of my childhood, and I got called, even though my grandpa is part black, but I don't look black at all, and I got
No,
called
man.
N word all the time growing up and all kinds of stuff, just because I had a darker skin tone. I hated where I grew up. If I were to ask my teacher, my third grade teacher actually was Miss McLeod, and she is the only one of all of those teachers that I had during that time that I even remember her name, because she was very kind to me, and she knew how, my family situation and how poor I was, and conveniently enough, she was my grandfather's cousin. So
Oh,
she was very kind to me, and like she like knew that. So when I was in third
that's
grade, I was doing like sixth, seventh grade math and stuff. And so she would let me do the sixth, seventh grade math in my own room, and then if I finished it really fast, she would like let me play. She would bring me snacks and stuff, and just kept me occupied because I had severe ADHD, could not focus for the life of me. But if I asked her, maybe she might be the only one. But I get the principle you're saying. If I were to ask back in those times in that place, there's no way in hell if I asked them to show me a Japanese flag, they'd be like, "What's wrong with you, boy? You ain't American." I'd be like, "Well, fuck."
and yeah, like that. So America, what you were saying, 200, 300 years old. Pretty sure you guys just had your 240th anniversary 4 years ago. So
Yeah, it
you're,
was it was fairly recent.
I'm pretty sure it's around 245 years old. I could be one sec.
Yeah, do a little Jamie in.
How old is
Oh,
America?
Jamie.
The founding fathers settled the Declaration on July 4th, 1776. That makes the country 244 years old. Boom. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Old
Wow, Griffin.
1776.
And that's another point to make. My mom's American, so I know a lot
Oh
about
yeah.
America, but in particular, when I went for my dyslexia testing, they had to test my memory, but instead of having me name Canadian prime ministers, they had me name American presidents in order,
Oh fuck.
which was weird. But
I
yeah,
can't do that.
thinking about back to that 244 years thing, if so, let's take 244 and divide it by something simple like 4. That gives us with 61. That means if you had 4 generations of people that each lived to 61 years old and had a kid around 30, you have 4 or 5 generations, and this
Yeah.
country is just being born.
Yeah.
And to think about that in what happened during that time and how that
I
kind of
mean, dude,
affected,
my
like,
great grandfather was born in the 1800s, like mid 1800s.
right? And that's what I'm saying. We think about this stuff like before we raped and pillaged and enslaved. That was only 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
And some of those guys are still kicking.
Okay, so yeah, well, I was incorrect on the math
Come
there. My grandfather was born in the late 1800s, not the mid. So he was born in like I believe 1898, and then he died in
Okay.
1998. He died 2 years. So he died 2 years after I was born. My great grandfather, a guy that lived in the 1800s, was alive when I was alive.
That's
If
wild.
that if that gives any sort of insight on how close that is. And then his grandfather was born in like the 1820s, and that guy's grandfather was born in the 1700s when the country was founded. So literally 3 grandpas ago, the country was being founded, which is that
Yes.
just blows my fucking mind because now both my grandparents are dead, and I've got my own kid now, and uh, I'll be a grandpa soon. And by the time I'm a grandpa, imagine what the fuck this country's gonna be like
Yeah.
Imagine.
if it's here. I think
And
If it's still
I think there's
you're in a
sorry, go ahead.
great situation where a lot of, and this is where my whole point was leading to. Now we have the scope and the ability to teach our children about sections or portions of the entire planet that are available to us via the internet or and now even travel if you so
Yeah,
desire. But in particular, a lot of people are sitting in front of the screen but very closed off in the information that they're gathering or really what they can do. So you teaching our 3 different languages is exactly what you should be doing rather than say I know one girl in particular in my town. She's bought her child 3 of the child iPads because the
oh,
child keeps on breaking the child iPad, which if
damn.
you know about those, they're like next to indestructible most of the time.
Yeah,
But yeah, like
yeah.
he keeps on putting it in the water in the bath. Why is he using it in the bath?
Right. Take it
And
away.
so again, that's a whole nother idea. But regardless of that, just the tools at your disposal now with the right state of mind, with the what's the word? Being able to basically having that curiosity and sparking it, basically teaching him how to harness all the tools that he has, that's gonna go much farther than a lot of people, even in Canada or the United States, that are really kind of, like you said, blind to it all.
yeah. Well, that's like a really important thing for me because one of the problems I have with currently this generation is that instead of doing your own research and doing your own information, you'll just accept information from someone else that did their own research.
Oh yeah, all the
I
time.
think opinions need to be formed on your own. If you're basing your opinion based on someone else's opinion, then you've already lost. Like you have no idea what you're talking about. You need to do your own research. And where you were saying there's a lot of people shelled off or they don't have a proper access to information outside of their little field of view, that is 100% directly tied to the algorithm. Like, if I get on my
Oh,
computer right
yes.
now, yeah, that shit is crazy. From where a little backstory on me, I've been in marketing for 5 or 6 years just because I do run small businesses and stuff, and I help like small businesses build an online presence and whatnot, social media presence. So I understand how this shit works. And the algorithm is fucking evil. 100%. This shit is evil. This shit is a virus, like humanity, but like it's a virus for humanity that is directly uploaded through your phone and your fucking Facebook and your computer and anything electronic. That shit is insane. And people always asking like, dude, the other day I was talking about this. I only said it one time and then I got an ad for it on Google.
Right? I saw it on
It
my
keeps
phone
blowing
now.
Yeah.
people's mind. Every 2 days I hear about it
I
as
know
well.
that's
Oh,
fucked up.
well, I was talking about Frisbees with my buddy, and then look, Frisbees on the ad. It's like, yeah, dude, it's listening, and you accepted the terms and agreements when you
Yep.
opened the phone.
100%. When I explain that to people, they tell me I'm full of shit every time. I'm like, dude, read your terms and conditions. I know that people say that and it's like a joke or whatever, but if you don't read them, then you're going to keep getting surprised by fucking information they've already given you.
Oh, I never read that
But well,
shit.
the thing is, they know that people won't take the time to read them, so they can fucking sneak whatever they want in there, dude. Like,
Yes,
so I
and
was
you
reading
probably
sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, you
Well, I
were
did
reading.
the Ancestry DNA kit, and I was reading the terms and conditions of that. They collect your fucking DNA and store it, and there's literal parts of it that say that they can perform tests on that DNA. They can keep it in a data bank where anyone or the certain people can access it. Certain subsidiaries or certain affiliates of their company can access it, including the government and police, which is fuck.
Yes, I was gonna tell you a story that happened in Hamilton where they caught a killer because his DNA was in the system basically as an unknown, and he did an ancestor kit, and it
What a
came back and pinged
dumbass.
him.
What a
Yeah.
dumbass.
But just he didn't read the terms and conditions.
That's what happens,
That's
man.
the bottom line. Yeah, you get framed for murder. And imagine if there was just a 88% match. Like that would
Damn.
be enough. And I don't think
Damn.
that would that be submissible in court, do you think?
No
Because
way.
it's DNA evidence.
88%, they would be like, "Come on, man. Come on."
Right.
And they would well, the thing about, prosecutors, like, if you pay attention to any of that Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, they have a fantastic way of stringing points together. They make it to where one fact like that it's 88% and not 100, and that there could have been somebody else with the other 12%, an inextricable, event. They're saying that they cannot be separated, like, "Oh, only 88%? Well, my client, this, or that." Or the other side of the coin, 88%, who else is gonna test higher than that? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So the
Yeah.
thing about prosecutors like that, it's really just about creating a convincing argument. And the whole reason Amber Heard lost the case is because she couldn't convince or create a convincing argument because she kept contradicting herself the entire time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's the beauty. Even
I
if let's say that she was right and Johnny Depp was abusing her, let's just say she was. The problem she had is she never kept a consistent story. So all you have to do is point out the inconsistencies, and then everything else is thrown out the window. Everything. If you can just point out a couple, like, oh, okay, so you lied about these 3 things. Maybe the other 3,000 things you're saying aren't true. That quote Michael Jordan said. He was like, I can make 1,000 shots, but I missed one, and the only one people are going to talk about is the one I missed.
Yeah.
exactly, yes. It's credibility. It's as soon as a lie leaves your lips, your credibility goes down. And another thing about that trial in particular, the Amber Heard Johnny Depp, I didn't realize how the courtroom sounds like a very dry, sad phone sex conversation at times. just the he got you that role, didn't he?
Yeah,
Right.
Didn't you?
you
Didn't
liked that
you?
role. You needed that money, didn't you? You'd do anything for that money.
Every time I heard the phrase "didn't you" come out of Amber Heard's lawyer's mouth, I just kind of winced a little bit because it gave me memories. I was like, eh.
Bro, she said that to every single person she brought up on the stand. That's one of the main points she would bring up. She'd be like, "You're just doing this for the fame, aren't you? Didn't you?"
Right. And then that guy wrote
Yes.
the one girl.
Yeah, that guy was hilarious. He's like, "I could be saying the same about you, being Amber Heard's lawyer. What the fuck? It's a horrible idea."
And then she tried to she was just like, object. Or what did she say?
That's
She tried
hearsay.
argumentative is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, what?
And that's
Objection,
Hearsay.
hearsay, argumentative.
I saw this
That's
meme
funny.
of Bird was talking about how her dog got bit by a bee, and
Oh my god, I love that. My dog got
it pans over the bee, and the bee is just like, objection.
You're sick.
You're saying yes.
That's funny.
That gets me. But that's another thing too. We have this vast. We have a whole nation, 2 nations, 3 nations, probably, viewing a private ordeal, like a private affair, kind of.
Yeah, why wasn't fucking
Oh,
Ghislaine Maxwell's
right?
trial televised? We just have a
Right?
couple shitty sketches drawn, and I mean, it's obvious why. It's just,
Because of the fucking it rats certain people out, right?
yeah, because Hollywood's fucking pedophile ring is very deep seated, and anyone that disagrees that it exists anymore is just blatantly ignorant. They are choosing to be ignorant because I mean, Epstein literally got convicted of doing it. You can't ignore it anymore. It does not exist for the people who just want to be like,
Right? He literally had a list of like people, you know?
yeah, and the list was fucking deep, brother. Like Mariana Trench. There were so many names on there that I was reading that I was like, no, not you. Why you, man?
They do
Why?
Yeah, like we're not going to talk slander about any of them, but I agree. There is a lot of surprising names that I saw on that list that I'm, well, no, that can't be.
Yeah. I saw Will
And-
Smith's name on there, and that fucked me up because I like Will Smith. And now Will Smith is
I
there
love Will
slapping
Smith.
motherfuckers
I
on
really-
TV and like, dude, Jada fucking ruined this motherfucker's life, man, for real.
Did you see that clip
I'm sorry.
of it's almost a like for like side by side of the exact same thing happening in an award show. This guy
No.
basically.
Yep, I saw that. It was a
I sent
movie.
it to you guys, I think, yeah.
Yeah, you sent it to us, Greg.
What's that about? That's weird. It was fake.
It came out afterwards, yeah.
Okay, good.
So I think, but touching on the Jada Pinkett Smith point, I think she literally is like, there's a problem with, I'm not going to say women or men. There's just a problem with people in Hollywood. I know a lot of people are going to want to assign a gender to this, but there's a lot of problem with people in Hollywood who like to aggrandize their own life by fucking leeching onto somebody else. Like, so Jada Pinkett, Tupac died. She played that part like a fucking fiddle until now. Or she still talks about it. Like, still. And like, she's got a husband and kids. Her kids literally make songs about wishing he was alive. That's fucking weird, bro. That is extremely weird to use somebody. Okay, that would be a similarity to like 30 years from now, Nipsey Hussle's girlfriend is like famous as fuck. Like, she's one of the most famous women on the planet just because he got shot and murdered, and she used that to aggrandize her own status.
Yeah.
That's just, it's one of those things. I use 2 women
She's
as
a
an
real
example.
one, so
That's
probably-
why I specifically said before we started that I mean people in Hollywood and not, men or women. But I only use 2 women as an example because that's all I can think of at the moment.
No,
Yeah.
it's bringing up a different point. You could argue that Pete Davidson is the same case as a male,
Yeah.
where
This
he
motherfucker's
dated.
slanging dick.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. But that's on a different realm. Even looking at that, it's like, so if you look at a woman who's leeching onto a man, it's like, well, that's really not something you want to be doing. But then Pete Davidson, I'm not really batting it. We all just kind of chuckled because it is the same case, but at the same time, it's funny because it was about big dick energy.
I'm gonna level with you though. I never thought Pete Davidson was funny. I'm not really a Pete Davidson.
He's not
fan.
that funny.
I'm
It's
not
really
a
that's-
fan of this dude, to be real with you. And like, the only thing that really like made me be like, okay, respect, was when he got with Ariana. But then Mac Miller killed himself, and I was like, all right, now I definitely hate you.
Yeah.
Like, I lost Ariana, and now he's fucking with Kanye. Like, come on, man, these are fucking icons. These are legends, and you're just out here fucking breaking up homes. And
Dude, he
causing
was.
motherfuckers to
I
go
just saw a
crazy.
thing that he went out on like. He went out with their kids like without Kim and shit, and he
just
was like holding
walking
hands with
around
them.
holding their hands.
That's fucking
Bro.
weird, bro.
Let me
That
just
is
level with you
strange.
like this. I had a stepfather growing up, and he meant a lot to me. Dude helped me out, so I understand the stepfather role. But being never once did my stepfather, before he was married to my mother, ever try to fulfill any sort of fatherly role. That's weird and
Yeah.
manipulative when you're just dating someone and you're straight up
Absolutely.
like texting their spouse that they're still married to pictures of you in bed with their wife. Come on, man. Like, I get
that's
that
fucked.
everyone can argue Kanye's abusive, manipulative, this and that, but let me put it to you in layman's terms. If you're in a long-term relationship with someone you've been in, and you've been in what you think is love for several fucking years, and then
You have like 5 kids together.
yeah, you have several kids together, and then out of nowhere, your significant other just starts sleeping with someone else and just pretty much tells you you can't see your kids, starts getting fucking security guards at your own children's birthday party, and then that guy's sending you pictures, or that woman sending you pictures with your spouse in their bed in their bed, and then out here
Oh, it's
hanging out with
wild.
your kids, just walking them around, holding their hands, and they're like, come on, man, that's fucked up. Like, I can't support Pete on this one. A lot of people are out here like, oh, he's big dick energy. He's
No, that's
Jamaican,
mad
so happy.
disrespect.
But dude, everything he's doing is like, it is just not the right way to go about it. And I feel like it's a huge publicity stunt. Like,
And
that's
Especially
what
if
the
they
that's
end things,
Kardashians
bro.
specialize in, is publicity stunts. Like, right now, we're talking about them, and what have they done? I can't name anything any of them have done that's worth mentioning besides Kylie. And that cosmetics brand she built that made her the first or the youngest billionaire,
Yeah.
that was honestly incredible, but it couldn't have happened without her prior status of her family being famous just for creating publicity.
Oh
That's what
yeah,
they
and
do.
her being with Travis Scott and everything, and
Yeah, I mean, well, she was a billionaire before Travis Scott, or like, no, it
well,
wasn't
they
before.
were
No,
together for
they
a
were
long time.
together, but her net worth was well over Travis Scott's. Like, she
Oh
was
yeah, but still,
worth like hundreds of
I'm sure it
millions.
helped.
That's another thing too. That's a weird thing that white kids do. They idolize Travis Scott, but this motherfucker, all his music sounds like no 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 no
Yeah, I don't really listen to
wild.
him too much
like,
anymore, and not even because of the cancel thing, but like, I don't know, his music just doesn't hype me up anymore. Some songs are all right, but
I think that's just part of like as you mature, or not even mature, as you grow, your taste change. Because I used to really like Odd Future Wolfgang. Now I can't sit
dang,
around and listen to that. I'll be like, God, that's
I'll
horrible.
listen to it. I'll kind of listen to it sometimes. Then I'll turn the song halfway through. I'll turn it off.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. That's more similar to how I'll do it, because I'll get halfway through it and I'm like, okay, the nostalgia was fun for a minute or two, but God, this is
Right?
annoying now. Not that I'm saying anything bad about Tyler the Creator, because I like that motherfucker. He's funny. He's talented. I like some of his new shit, but I just Odd
Some of
Future
his new
Wolfgang,
stuff's
I
all right.
can't.
Yeah.
There
Like,
are some songs that pop on that are that you just switch because you don't really want to hear it. I
yeah, I'm
understand.
like, oh man, not today or
I
tomorrow.
would say there's maybe 3 songs from maybe 5 or 6 songs from Tyler, the Creator, that
There are definitely songs that I cannot play around people.
yeah, that's the other part too. And
But wait,
yeah,
but why?
Where he's
not
like
that I
talking
wouldn't
about
play.
raping bitches and shit, and I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
okay. I thought
nobody
you were
wants
saying
to hear
because you
this.
were embarrassed of your taste in music. I was be like, fuck that shit, dude. I play
No, I
whatever
mean
music
like
wherever.
nobody. People would be like,
No,
who the fuck is this guy? Like, what the fuck are you
Yeah.
listening to?
Okay.
Right?
Well, that's a valid point, because when I first got with my fiance now, Kiana, uh, I played her. I listened to Avenged Sevenfold. You guys know me, huge fucking Avenged Sevenfold fan.
Yeah.
I've been for over 17 years now. So I played this song called "A Little Piece of Heaven," and in the song, like the chorus, he says, "Must have stabbed her 50 fucking times. I
That's a
can't
good
believe
song.
it. Ripped her heart out right before her eyes. Eyes over easy. Eat it, eat it, eat it." And he's talking about, so the story is, this guy loves this woman so much. He loves her so fucking much that he can't possibly imagine life without her, and he wants to propose. But then the thoughts of paranoia creep into him because his love is so strong. He thinks she might say no, and he couldn't imagine what he would do if she said no. He couldn't go on living. So instead of giving her the chance to say no, he kills her and then rips her heart out and eats it so they can become one, and then rapes her dead body and uses it. The literal lyrics say, he's got a heater for her thighs, right?
yeah,
What is he? But so he's talking about, basically raping her, keeping her alive because he's in love with her so much. Blah 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 blah. She comes back to life, or from the dead, kills him, rips his heart out, eats it, and then they go crash a fucking wedding together and kill everyone and then get married. And it's it started out as a joke song, right? So they created that album as part of a Halloween EP that they were going to release. Not a lot of people know that it wasn't supposed to be on the album whatsoever.
really.
And then yeah, it wasn't supposed to be on the album whatsoever. It was part of a Halloween EP. They gave it to Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Was like, scrap this whole album except for this song, and this is going on the main record. And we're really going to put some time into it. And so it was supposed to be originally like a 4 or 5 minute song, and it ended up being like 9 minutes, because
Wow.
they started adding, like, they added an entire orchestra, they added a choir, they just started adding crazy fucking shit. And
Was that What album was that? Mad Hatter or
That was
fucking...
the black and white
Oh,
album.
okay.
So that was the
Really?
self-titled album. Yeah, that was the one with Scream, Afterlife, Almost Easy, that whole album. That was the
Okay.
one where so right after City of Evil was Backcountry, Beast and the Harlots, Sidewinder, all that shit that kind of got him into the spotlight, and then the
Right. It
self-titled
was like
album was
Walk.
what fucking blew him up. Well, Walk
Okay.
was part of their City of Evil Diamonds in the Rough cover thing. There, I didn't even
Oh,
know you knew
yes.
about that. That's a fucking great the Diamonds in the Rough cover album is fantastic, dude.
So I
That
used to just listen to Avenged Centerfold playing Nazi zombies for hours and hours. We would just search Avenged Centerfold and put it on shuffle.
Oh,
So
God.
Nightmare the album is a real good favorite of
Oh yeah,
mine.
Nightmare got me through some hard times, man, because their drummer passed away. Right around the time their drummer passed away, shortly after their drummer passed away, within a year, my aunt shot herself in the head and killed herself. Like
Holy crap.
she called me on the phone and begged me to talk to my dad, and then my father was like, uh, you know, I don't want to talk to her right now because she would like call all the time with the craziest stuff, and I didn't get into it because I was a child, so I don't really actually know too many of the details about that. I just know he told me he didn't want to talk to her, and like to this day, it haunts me because either that night or the next morning, she like took a shotgun out like in her backyard and then shot and killed herself. And so
Jesus.
while I was dealing with that loss, another friend of mine got shot and killed. He was murdered,
Wow.
a skateboarder friend I knew. So they were going through this incredible, sense of loss. I didn't understand the loss they went through until years later. But I was trying to relate as a child who had just experienced some of their first real, like, traumatizing loss. And then years later, I got to the point where my one of my closest friends, Sebastian Vance, died. Like that was the one when I understood the Nightmare album when he passed away, because that was the guy that was in my life every day for a good fucking majority of my childhood, and even after the point, even when we moved several states apart, we kept in touch. That was my dude. I talked to him all the fucking time. I love that guy. And when I finally understood the Nightmare album was during that period, like it's something connected, dude. And then I heard Victim a way I've never heard it before. Victim's a song on there that Sinister Gates wrote about visiting the Rev's funeral. And
Hmm.
that song, dude, it's just so fucking beautiful and sad from start to finish. And like as time goes on and I get older, I only relate more and more to the album. Like you guys were here last year. I lost 5 family members in the span of 3 months, and
Yeah.
those were all immediate family members. Like that was, two of my grandparents, 2 of my aunts, um, and a friend who overdosed. And just even during that time alone, my love for that album grew so much stronger. And it's wild how music can sort of connect areas
Oh,
in
it
you. I'm
it
sorry, go ahead.
lights up a different portion of your brain. Absolutely. Like it honestly does. It stimulates a portion of your brain that it it stimulate is the same part of the brain that lights up when you're thinking of a good memory, when you're tasting a pleasant food that you've had in the past, one of your favorite foods, or when you're telling a nice story about your past. It can do a lot of different things, but in particular, yeah, go on. I was just gonna make the point that music can light up parts of your brain that would normally stay dormant or only be lit for a short period of time.
Yeah. Well,
I think
and
that's pretty
I
awesome.
know for sure that music sparks more creativity in my life than anything in the world. So if I'm in a place where I'm having writer's block, or if I'm in a place where I just am having creative block whatsoever, I will completely clear my schedule. I'll take the hottest fucking shower I can to where it's literally burning my skin. Like my skin is always red after I get out of the shower, and there's steam everywhere, and I'm having trouble breathing. Uh, and I'm about
Wow.
to black out, and I'll listen to fucking music while I do that, and then right after that, I'll either go smoke and then kick the fuck out of my bag, or I'll go smoke and I'll just do some form of exercise. And during that time of exercising slash meditating slash being high as fuck after that shower and that music, I feel like every time I recall something I was listening to, like, and then an idea that I never would have thought of before just sparks out of nowhere. It's like it creates this entirely new thing, and there's not necessarily an entire paradigm shift in my life, but a minor, like a minute paradigm shift where I'm like, oh, why didn't I think about it this way? You know?
An energetic flow.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a new idea is introduced, like it sprouts in a different section of my brain that I didn't even know could sprout there. And I'm like, whoa, I'm so glad I took a step away. I think that's an important thing too. Once again, America tried to implement that. The whole initially, the reason we don't go to school in the summer was because at the time the majority of our country was an agricultural country. Like,
Mm,
so people would be out farming and shit. You would go home for the entire summer to work on your farm, and then come fall and
yes.
winter when there were no more crops, you came back to school.
That's why you
After
had 6 or 7 kids so you could help on the
Yeah,
farm. And
exactly, literally, exactly, and there was no birth control, and motherfuckers are bored. You ain't got a TV. What are you gonna do? Lay around and fuck? You gonna lay around and fuck? I mean, I still lay around and fuck, even with the TV. So I mean, I can't say anything, but
I was just
uh,
about to say, I don't think the TV helped. I think the TV might enhance it,
yeah, it
actually.
definitely.
You're like, this show kind of sucks now. What a bag, yeah.
But the point I was getting, after our country like kind of abandoned the agricultural mindset, now we've industrialization happened. Uh, a lot of that time started being spent literally just for children to refresh and have a break. So, because it's extremely important for your mind to have rest. You can't continuously cram information 24/7. You won't retain it. Your mind has to have time to let it soak. Your mind has to have time to breathe. And I think that that is a very important part of the creative process, regardless of what you're doing in life. You need to take time to breathe. Just give yourself a second, whether it's even just like 30 minutes of just looking at a fucking wall. You gotta just not do something for
Y-
a minute.
Absolutely. I go back to a quote slash a thesis a lot in my brain where I've played the tune for Greg as well, where um, it's basically stating a person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except
Yeah,
thought.
buddy.
No, yeah.
So in that
Like some
process of
Socrates shit. What is that? Who is that?
I don't actually know who the quote's by, but one sec, I'll look it up real quick.
Oh my god. It's a song
Yeah, it is.
by Overthinker Enzo. Or
Yeah,
the other way around,
and
by Enzo, it's the song Overthinker.
I didn't even know about the original song. I've heard a synthwave version of it. Yeah,
Oh,
by
so
Michael Anthony Enzo.
that's wild, man. I was over here thinking that's Socrates. This motherfucker's woke. I gotta get him on the podcast.
But along those lines, he basically says he's talking about actual thought, like chatter in the skull. Like you're literally inner monologue of, and you can read the lyrics actually. You probably have them up.
I did have him
Um,
up. I X'd him out. I'm gonna Jamie this shit right back though.
one of the lines is we confuse signs with the real world, or yeah, okay. They've lost touch with reality. That's to say, we confuse science or signs with the real world. So along those lines, it's confusing the narrative of what you're kind of supposed to do and what should be happening with what actually matters and what's going on and basically how it affects you. And this is a point that I try to drive home with you, Greg, in your own life is just over if you have nothing to think about but your own thoughts, you get trapped in this feedback loop of basically you can never fulfill. It's a self-failing prophecy at that point. Like
Oh, buddy, I'm crazy in my mind, and I'll just
Bro,
talk to myself all
that's what
day.
causes that fucking anxiety more than anything, bro.
Oh,
Honestly.
absolutely. No, I
I
start to repeat words in my head over and over and over, and I try to tell myself, stop repeating that same word. Why are you repeating that? But it just won't stop. It's like constant, the
self
same fucking word, or like phrase, like just going over and over and over. It's weird.
I wonder what honestly, I know this is gonna sound far fetched, but I really truly wonder if you could benefit from some sort of neurogenic like lion's mane.
What?
No, really. I know it sounds funny, but there's like certain fungi that you can take that have neurogenic properties that help your brain create those synapses again, those
Wow.
electrons. They create those connections. Um, they use my buddy Reese Fontaine. Shout out to Reese Fontaine. He got bit by a tick and had Lyme's disease. He had several tick diseases, tick-caused
Yeah.
diseases. I don't know how to
hmm
word that properly, but
Tick-borne, yeah.
yeah, thank you. Tick-borne diseases. I couldn't get it out of my mind. But anyways, he had several of those, and he got to the point where he could barely speak or walk. Like he was having
Jesus.
to have someone take care of him. And if you know this guy's in incredible shape. He wrestled all throughout middle school, high school. He's a bushcraft survivor. He lived off the land, like incredible shape. You saw this dude, he's got six-pack fucking, abs, fucking huge chest. He's got long blonde hair. Dude looks like Thor, honestly. Like he's fucking incredible shape. And for him to be to a point where he can't barely wipe his own ass, he's having trouble speaking, he's having trouble walking. All he did was take psilocybin and lion's mane and mycelium, I believe. I'm not sure if that one's correct. Yeah, mycelium. Yeah.
hmm
So he
That's one
took
of the main
those.
properties.
Yeah. So he
Um,
took those three things, and now he's back to the point where he's running fucking marathons and shit. Like a guy who just a couple years ago was having trouble walking and speaking and wiping his own ass is now fucking literally running marathons, teaching children all around the country how to like survive off the land. This dude,
mm,
truly incredible. He's the one that sold me on this shit, honestly, because before I heard it from him, because I had gotten sober. Backstory, you guys know this, my viewers don't. I was addicted to drugs for a long fucking time. Got sober about 4 or 5 years ago, about 5 years ago now. And so anytime I would hear anything with the word mushroom in it or anything to do with the drug, I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, I know what you're
don't
going to
don't
tell
bring
me.
that up.
I've
Yeah.
done drugs. I know what they do. That's not what I need. But this is not a psychedelic drug, or psilocybin is. But lion's mane and mycelium are not. They are not the psychedelic whatsoever. They literally just have neurogenic properties. They just help your brain like create those pathways again, so that the electrons can fire and hit those synapses. It'll help you regain functions of your brain that you had trouble with before. It helps with memory. It helps with focus. It helps with all kinds of things. And I think it'll really help you with your anxiety and depression because especially microdosing psilocybin, because there is
Mm.
no psychedelic properties when you microdose psilocybin whatsoever. You can't get now if you're Mike Tyson, a microdose is an eighth. It's fucking insane. That's insane because an eighth is what I would normally eat when I wanted to have a good trip. A quarter is what I would eat if I was trying to meet God,
Yeah.
And so for this guy, every single day to just throw an eighth in his mouth a couple times a day, I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
That's wild. That's a lot of buildup, I
but
feel.
Greg, you should really, really look into that, dude.
It's
It'll
interesting
help.
that you bring that up because Greg wanted to try microdosing on his own. It's almost like his brain is craving it without actually knowing how it's going to help him.
Dude, you should try it. You should try it, Greg. I really truly believe it'll help you. I was listening to a podcast the other day about a guy who suffered with anxiety so bad that he was basically an agoraphobe. Like he was afraid of every situation. He couldn't go outside. He like had the worst fucking anxiety on earth. And then this guy started microdosing psilocybin and taking mycelium and lion's mane and fucking St. John's wort or whatever it is. Started taking all these fungal medications.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
this
I
guy,
take St. John's wort.
oh, for real?
Go on. Yeah, I do. I have some in my. I never really knew what I took it for, but my mom's been mixing that in with my vitamin regimen since I was a kid,
Like
so
his
I just
appetite.
thought it was one of the things that I take.
It's it's really good for mental health conditions. Like
Okay.
so it keeps your brain from using up neurotransmitters. Like it's basically like the opposite of an SSRI. Like it prevents your body from releasing too much serotonin or dopamine or GABA or norepinephrine, and it just makes your brain more effectively use them. So instead of just wasting all those chemicals and just like that might be one of the reasons why you're so reserved. Like you're able to sit down and think, and I've noticed like you will sit there and like listen to what someone's saying and actually take in what they're saying, and you don't really act on emotion too often. Like, and whenever you do act on emotion, it's one of those things like similar to me where I'll get to a point where I won't act on emotion for so long, and then I fucking blow up. I'm like, God
Oh,
damn
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
it's a lot of emotion.
And so that's probably because of the St. John's wort. That stuff is really good for making your neurotransmitters like properly release those chemicals. So that's cool that your mom was like already helping you do that.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
that's interesting. I'll have to talk to her about that and be like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah,
That
what the fuck are you
also,
trying to do?
Yo,
Pass
mom, what
five?
do you do?
it also brings back to dyslexia and my father dying too. But importantly with dyslexia, when I was in a school scenario and they told us the instructions for the assignment, I I didn't really have the ability or the confidence to ask the instructions again or read them on the page. So I
Yeah.
had to really pay attention. And another thing that I was taught when I was a kid is you have to listen with your eyes, your ears, and your
Yeah.
heart. And so that means making eye contact, really listening, and then trying to think about what they're saying in a way that it affects you. And not just trying, but also like very much trying. And my
Yeah.
my family
Actively
also brought up
engaging
yes,
as opposed
and
to passively just like taking in the
critical
information.
thinking about it.
I
Exactly.
will I will
Critical
say
thinking is
this.
what I was trying to say before, actually. That's
I
what we
know
need is more. Go ahead.
I know Greg and I suffer from this. I know for sure Greg does. Cuz I'll be talking to him and having a full conversation and all I'll get back for an hour is, yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, we my buddy Dan and I used to have a saying. We would basically say the conversation would get to a point where your NPC auto replying, where
Yeah.
every few
Autopilot.
seconds you're, "Ugh, well,
Yep.
Well,
and doing that. And wow, that's crazy. No, okay. Wow, that's crazy. That's cool. And just kind of repeating those things. It's easy to fall into that, but
And it's not like it doesn't come from a place of rudeness. I think it genuinely comes from a place of having difficulty focusing, which is another point where I really believe like fungi could help me, Greg and I. I haven't been microdosing shrooms. I want to so bad, but it's fucking highly illegal where I'm at. So um,
oh, I
I'm
could get it pretty
I'm
easy.
gonna have to wait until I move. Well, they're about to legalize it in Canada. They've been talking
yes.
about it a bunch. You guys are incredibly lucky that you have a forward-thinking government when it comes to natural
Communist.
medications. What's
What?
pharmaceutical replacement? Yeah, communism too. You guys are commies. At least in Quebec, dude. That shit. I still can't believe the tax
Quebec
rate
is
and all the
fucked.
crazy shit. I feel bad for them, dude. We have a friend. Us three have a friend named Spoznik. He's fucking awesome guy. Jean Sebastien Gauthier. Dude
He's
is
a
fucking
French toast.
yeah. This guy is like
He's a
very
French
French Canadian.
toast.
This dude during the quarantine literally got fined $1,700 for smoking a cigarette on his own porch after curfew.
Yeah, that's
Imagine if
pretty
they did that
Yeah.
in America. There would be rioting in the streets. Motherfuckers would literally come out of their little huts in the mountains with fucking machine guns and start fighting the government. I'm not playing, dude.
That's
That is so insane that like a $1,700 fine. Like think about that. I know there's probably some people listening to this like $1,700. I'll wipe my ass with that. But like, bro, to somebody that's in their mid-20s like us, $1,700, whether or not we do make a ton of money, it's annoying to lose it. Like nobody wants to lose
absolutely.
$1,700 that makes any kind of money.
bro.
Maybe
I'm
somebody
mad
that's
losing
addicted to fucking
$20.
meth doesn't mind to spend $1,700, but yeah,
It's
I agree.
18.
I'm mad I'm losing $20. I'm mad, well, if I lose a 5, I'm like, "Bro, where the fuck did that go?" And it's not because I'm like fucking broke my entire life, but I did grow up broke, and I think that's what makes the difference. I grew up fucking piss poor, so whenever I get to a point where I feel like money doesn't have any sort of I'm not saying it's the most valuable thing in my life, but it holds an important placeholder because I understand it's a vehicle to get me to places I need to be and I want to be.
Mm.
So you can't completely ignore money and be like, "Oh, it's not important to me." Those people like it is important. Whether you want it to be or not, it's important. It's just the factual fucking nature
Those
of this.
people, if they are getting by, they're getting by extremely lucky.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
agreed.
born in a right type of scenario where they can think about money and not feel pressured by it. I would wager that certain types of people can just I don't know actually. I It's weird to think about because if you're born in a wealthy home where you never have to think about money, it is easy not to think about money.
Yeah. Well, so
Especially,
Reese is a good example of that. The guy I was just talking about, he was born into a literal millionaire family. Like, his father was a fucking awesome surgeon, awesome guy. I love that dude. And Reese adopted that ideology. He had access to every single bit of money he could ever want in the world, like any sort of opportunity, any sort of networking opportunity. He was just like, nah, I'm gonna go live off the land, and that's different to me because I
that's
feel like that's way more respectable than just being like, yeah, money's not that important, so I'm gonna just barely scrape by for the rest of my life. Like, dude, that's not a good way to live. So you want to be poor and barely making it and be in constant fucking misery. What's
Right?
that? What's the name of the rock? I can't remember it. The guy pushing the rock up the hill.
Oh, I don't know. I
uh,
know what you're talking about though.
yeah, Mistopheles. No,
Sisyphus. Wow, what's his name?
uh,
Search it up. Guy pushing rock uphill.
he made the
Yeah, it's Sisyphus. I was right.
Sisyphus.
Uh,
See.
so yeah, this motherfucker. That's just one of those things that like I'll never understand. But like we were saying, the communism of fucking Quebec, specifically Quebec, whatever, however you want to pronounce
Dude,
it.
that
It
place
is
is like
Quebec. Don't you talk
Yeah.
shit about Quebec. Sorry.
Quebec. They're so obsessed with religion, bro. They're like the most God place of all time. Like they worship God everywhere there, no matter where
There's
you go.
Bozzy
every Tim
doesn't.
Hortons has a church. I'm sorry.
No, for
Bozzy
real.
for sure does not.
Oh well, no, obviously not. But like,
Yeah.
it's a really religious place, bro. It's crazy.
The
I
other
fu-
thing that Griffin and I have talked about before is the fucking tax rate up there. Joe Rogan had a guest
Whew.
on his podcast recently. Godsod, I believe was his name, or maybe it was the other guy. I can't remember. I can't remember which guy it was. It was one of the Sods. But he had created a book and he wrote it and he lives in Canada. And so they taxed him 55% on all income, just the what's it called? You guys have two or three forms of taxes. What's the
HST, GST, and
yes.
Quebec has another one.
Yeah, so he got all three of those and he said in total they took over like 70% of his book's profits, which
Yes,
I
it's
couldn't fucking imagine that, dude.
so is
Imagine.
he also we talked about this the other day with my mother's taxing. If you're, say, a Canadian citizen or an American citizen trying to become a Canadian citizen, um, so it's $160 just for a passport in Canada. But if you're applying for a passport as a Canadian citizen from the United States, it automatically jumps to 320.
Sheesh.
So just to bring back what we were talking about before with the tax reasons, you couldn't even believe it. You had to look it up because you were like, no, there's no way that they charge that much fucking tax when you're across the border like that.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. I think she broke it down for me, my mother. She's trying to renounce right now so she can avoid all this and start a business over here. But basically, she's a dual citizen, and because of that, she is taxed on any land or property that she owns in the United States.
Yeah.
But that would make sense. But it also taxes her income in Canada as well as any property that
So
she
does she
gains from
make
in
money?
Canada.
So does she make money from stuff that is existing in America?
No, she doesn't.
Okay, so
That's
that's where it's
that's
fucked up. So if she was making money from some sort of entity in America, some sort of building in America, then it would make sense because you're taking advantage of the fact that we have a way less intensive taxing system when it comes to
yes.
business owners. However, she's not making any money in America, but she owns property here and has citizenship. So like, hey, what the fuck, bro?
She
Where's our
doesn't
cut?
even own property there.
Oh, so she's just a citizen now?
She is just a dual citizen. The only thing she has with the United States title is a United States passport.
Oh,
And it's it's mostly because she's trying to start a business over here, and that business would be considered international just because she would be operating off of a website, and she kind of wants it to be international. But on top of that, like
Well, so it's wherever
Um,
you collect the money, though. So she doesn't even have to worry about that.
that's an interesting point. Is Canada? We have a thing called a TSFA, or a tax-free savings account. Basically, you can take your tax-free savings account and put money into that savings account, and when you withdraw it, as long as you do it in a certain way, you can withdraw it without being taxed.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yes, except the United States does not recognize it.
Yeah, understandable. Because
Yes.
what's
So,
something that can't be taxed illegal?
and part of that is you can invest your TFSA. For example, that's what I'm doing right now. Most of my investments are through a TFSA, just so that when I do reap the benefits, they aren't taxed. And it will have to be reaped very slowly. I believe it's $5,000 is the max you can pull out at one time. But every year you basically get a little bit more money you can contribute. I believe it's 10,000 a year. And so right now my mom has a bunch of money in the TFSA, and some of that money has been made via the stock market through the United States through international
Oh,
trade. And that's where the
that's different.
taxing.
Yeah.
Yes, so
Okay, I see.
this is going back again 10, 20 years. So those tax documents, it's so difficult to find. She had to go back to 2011 and find all her investments and basically present that, and the it's almost too much to think about.
Yeah. Well, I will say, one thing that it's probably fucking amazing to live in Canada for would be the healthcare you guys have. A lot of people want that in America, but the only reason we can't really do that in America, not a lot of people understand this, is we're like the forefront of the world's medication. Like we create a
Yes.
good majority. So all of that has to research requires money. That's just as
Mhm.
simple as that. Research requires money, testing requires money, things require money, and the rest of the world can benefit from the work we do, but uh, your countries pay us highly, and our citizens pay for that research as well. Like
Oh,
it's
yes.
so it's like and that's the other thing about America. We're not a free market economy like people want to believe. Everything is paid for by somebody. It's
And
just what
this
it
is
is.
getting into a bit of conspiracy territory, but
Oh
again,
yeah,
with that, a sick person is way more profitable than a healthy person
absolutely.
who's good to walk out.
Think about how much
And
money they'd get off Greg. If Greg, if you lived in the fucking United States,
oh,
like
you'd be fucked.
imagine, like with all the times you've had to go to the hospital for DK, just this year alone, dude, you'd be in hundreds of thousands of dollars a day.
Oh yeah, I'd be fucked.
That's insane,
It's
dude. I imagine our life without our little Greggy.
so why and that's the thing, that now that you are already working in a system and uh, like operating with a system that you're paying for healthcare, to go the other way is to lose out on hundreds of millions of zillions, like an untold amount of money would
Yeah,
immediately switch hands, and it doesn't really make sense to me anyway, but oh well.
yeah, we
I
don't have enough money to understand their decisions.
No, and
We're not rich enough to speak their language yet.
we were talking about this the other day. The idea behind taxing was back when we had a society of 100 people in a small town, and there needed to be a road put down the center of the town. One guy would go around and say, basically, look, the government needs to put roads in. We need $1 from every citizen in order to pay for this road. That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
I'd roll with that if I had my own apocalyptic community and we needed to get stuff done. Not necessarily money, but let's say we needed to melt some metal for bullet
bottle
casings or
caps.
something like that. Exactly, bottle caps.
Well,
There you
Fallout.
go. We got it. We found a bottle cap press, and now we're forging new bottle caps and then dirtying them. It's a whole system. It's very, yeah, like seriously. We make the bottle caps, and then we give them to kids. We tell them to kick them on the ground for like 20 minutes, make them look old. It's perfect. But so in that apocalyptic society, I would definitely say that taxing on a small scale is valuable. It's a great idea.
Well,
But
that's
once you get past that, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's not necessarily like that wouldn't even be taxing. That would just be like communal gathering,
It
which
is, but is
taxing should
taxing.
be that. But yeah, taxing is.
That's
It's a
how it
whole thing,
started.
dude. Yeah, it's a whole. But taxes are fucking crazy. I mean, that's why we created. That's why America exists, because we were being taxed for things that we weren't even being represented for. And so we literally fucking overthrew our government, and now we're being taxed for things we're not being represented for, or we're being represented by people who don't or people who don't represent us properly. Like, for example, we live in a red state the majority of the time, but the town I
Right.
live in is entirely blue. Like, every
Huh.
person in this town, it's a college town, right? So college towns throughout the areas of the South, the majority of college towns will swing to the blue because it's full of young kids who are liberals, who are forward thinking, who don't,
Who have grown up in a red state or in a
yeah,
blue state?
exactly.
That's yeah.
So, but it doesn't matter how many of those little college towns are littered throughout my state, because my state is literally being. And let me clarify before I say this. I am the furthest thing from a fucking Democrat or a liberal, and the furthest thing from a fucking conservative or Republican. I am just a person who does his own research and agrees with what he sees. One thing I don't agree with is that we have an entire state full of colleges that all vote blue, but our state is red every single time because we're being held prisoner by our fucking politicians. Like I said, I'm not a Democrat. I really, really wouldn't care either way which way I voted, but just to see blatant fucking corruption. Like, there's this one person, Marsha Blackburn. Shout out to you. You suck. She's prevented
Shit.
she's prevented the legalization of marijuana in my state over and over and over and over, and it's because she has been directly tied to having her hand in investing in private prisons. Like,
Yes,
and
and
that's the biggest fucking contributor down here. It's small drug possession. It's drug possession.
mhm.
It's insane,
Eh,
dude.
and her actual feelings on it, her actual ideas behind it, regardless, doesn't matter. It's making her money, and that's I
It's a
guess that's
happy
the
world.
root of all evil.
Yeah,
And
or the root of all people, because we all
Oh,
follow
man.
paper trails. Paper trails.
Hey
I like
boys.
Joey Badass, man.
I gotta go here soon.
Oh well.
I gotta make a phone call to the government. Well, to H&R Block at least.
while they're listening, you can just say it, and they'll
Yeah,
probably
just
pick it up.
listen, and then they'll
Yeah,
call
you guys.
you.
I'll just say my social insurance number and everything, and
Please don't.
they'll just get a hold of me.
Yeah, imagine you just. It's gonna get to a point where you'll just be speaking out loud, and then they'll just contact you, be like, "Oh, I heard you didn't pay all your taxes this year."
Right?
The IRS doesn't even knock or send letters anymore. They just hack your Alexa and like, yo, we're gonna start garnishing your wages, dog. Damn it!
Fuck.
Oh, it's that movie Idiocracy all over again.
Yeah, literally. Oh fuck. Well, Greg, I guess that's a good place to round it out then. This has been the pilot episode of Two Pieces of Toast. I'm going to go into a little bit more. Basically, it's going to be 3 categories. You can expect 3 playlists. It's just going to be MMA mags once a week. Me and these 2 dudes will cover the MMA events of the week. We're going to have friends and family, which these dudes will also be in there because they're my friends and my family. And then we'll have Discord Among Gamers, where we meet with random people on the internet, play a video game with them, and record a podcast. That'll probably be the least uploaded one because motherfuckers on the internet are crazy. And I don't know how many
Yeah.
usable things we'll get, but
I
it's
get
right.
called mean names a
a
lot.
it's been a wonderful podcast. I appreciate you boys joining me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
To everybody listening, I love you. This is your host, Logan Eisenhower. Make sure you check out the bio. We're going to have some links to some important projects each of these guys are working on, including myself. And look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.
Adios.
Thanks for having us.